Hey everyone, I am back and today I am going to be painting Talk, who is the last fighter in my Star Bloodstalkers warband that I need to finish. So I am very excited about this today. As usual, I'm going to be using beginner-friendly techniques and I will be breaking down each step so that anybody can follow along. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I have primed the model white. I'm going to go in first with this turquoise color, put it on a makeup sponge, and then go over all of the high parts of the model, like all of the outside parts, such as the tops of the arms, the outer parts of the legs, his back, and the top of his head. Next, I'm going in just with a normal brush and I'm putting more color where I feel like the sponge didn't do a good enough job. I'm also cleaning up some areas and just making sure that overall it looks as tidy as possible. Using the same color, I'm doing this sort of triangle stripey detail on his torso. Then I'm going in with white and I am just color correcting any spots where I may have gotten blue paint where it wasn't supposed to be. And I am also gonna go in and do a reverse stripe pattern just like before, but this time I'm pulling the white over the blue on his legs and on his tail. Next, I'll be mixing 3 parts Skeleton Horde contrast paint with 1 part contrast medium, and I'm applying this mixture all over. So on the underbelly, on the blue part, just throw it on everywhere. So I'm going to restore some of the color with Screaming Skull and that same turquoise just by going over the high parts of the underbelly with Screaming Skull, and then I'm going to take turquoise and go over all the high parts of the blue part of the model. When I'm finished with that, I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes. I'm just using flat yellow and I am putting it on my teeny tiny brush. And I'm just going in very calm, understanding that anything that happens can be fixed with this step. I ended up having to go in a couple times and then I just took my brush again with black and tried to make the pupil more of like a line rather than a circle to give him a lizardy type feeling. I ended up having to come back and color correct with turquoise. Like I said, it's actually kind of satisfying to come back with the base coat color and tidy up the area after. This is what he's looking like now. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and paint his crest monster brown. I didn't film this, but I actually did highlight it afterward with skeleton bone. I'm going to attempt to explain this wet blend process. I'm not sure if this is actually how you're supposed to wet blend. This is just what I do. I'm going in first with this red color. I've put a good amount of water in my brush and I am placing this all over the feathers. Now, if you have not yet glued your guy together, don't be like me. Don't glue it. They're push fit. Take advantage of that and leave this guy's arm off while you do this, because it was really hard to do this with that arm there. Okay, now I'm just adding a little bit of purple to the red mixture and putting that on about 3/4 of the feather. I work it up to where I'm doing mostly purple and then work it up again to where I'm doing mostly blue. So to bring out the texture of the feathers, I am going to do a dry brush with this same turquoise color, it was very hard to get in there and actually get some strokes on there. So just do your best. That was pretty much a fail, but I'm moving on with my life, and I'm going to use this dark blue color to pick out the scales on his back. If you take your time with steps like this, it really does pay off, because you want them to look as clean as possible. You want to make sure that there are still those separations in between each scale. When those were done, I wanted to add a little bit more color, so I'm going in with this very light purple and just doing a light dry brush over the top. This gave it a little bit more texture and a little bit more color as well. I'm using this dark stone color for his blowpipe as well as his claws. I'm using chocolate brown to paint this little leather strap that he has on his front and then down his back as well. I'm then taking this warmer shade of brown just to pick out those edges and bring a little bit more of attention to them. Then I'm taking that same chocolate brown color and I'm going to be painting all of the areas that I will eventually be painting gold. By doing this base coat of brown underneath, it just makes it so that the gold is a little bit more rich and a little bit less brassy in the final product. For the gold, I do a 50-50 mix of Auric Armor Gold and Retributor Armor, and then I'm just going to be applying that to all of the areas that I want to be gold. Alright, now I'm just taking uniform gray and I am going to be putting this on the outer portion of his weapon, and I'm going to use this to be painting the little bolts that he has on his chest. I realized later there were these perfectly wonderful feathers right here on the tip of his blowpipe that would have been better to demonstrate the wet blend on, but I make a mistake in every video. That was the mistake for this video, so I'm going to go ahead and dry brush those and move on to the base. With Desert Yellow and Monster Brown in a 50-50 mix, I am applying this all over the base. And then I am going to go in with this chocolate brown for the inner rim of the little pond that you see. I'm then picking out all of the stones that you see with this gray color, and then I'm going in and with one shade darker, gonna paint the stone that's in the little pond. I used a basic green to pick out the plants, and then I'm going over everything with Rakeland Flesh Shade, including all of these areas in between the stones. I wanted my little pond to look like a swamp, so I'm going with this really deep army green color, and then I'm going to dry brush the whole thing with Screaming Skull. I'm using Athonian Camo Shade for the spaces around the bases of the rocks as well as the rim of my little pond. I wanted to restore some of the color back to these plants, so I'm going over them with Pig Bear Flesh, and they are perfectly highlighted because they were previously dry brushed. I decided I wanted a little bit more of a blue hue to my pond, so I did go in with a blue wash and just let that sit. I went ahead and painted my little frog bright orange to match the little froggy pouch on my chameleon model, and then I went over him with some gloss varnish to make him look like he was kind of slimy and wet. Finally, I'm going to be going over the little pond with water effects, and I am globbing this on really thick because once it dries, it does fall a lot. So although it looks really thick right now, it does not dry like this, and also obviously it dries clear. I let that sit for a few hours, and this was the effect. I am putting my black rim on so very happily, and this is the final look of him. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week.